At a House Oversight Committee hearing on Tuesday, Representative Khanna spoke about Republican legislation on the Biden family's potential conflicts of interest. The California Democrat condemned the resolution, saying, quote, "disagree with his policies, but don't call into question the man's integrity." Khanna suggested that family members of politicians on either side of the aisle who don't serve are, quote, "not fair game." He yielded to Republican James Comer, who said they weren't saying anything about the president's integrity if his name is not listed on accounts pertaining to Hunter Biden's dealings.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I oppose this resolution attacking President Biden's integrity out of sadness. You know, there used to be a time in this country where on a bipartisan basis, we celebrated people who dedicated their life to public service. We celebrated people like Joe Biden and Dick Lugar and George Voinovich and Howard Metzenbaum, people who said, I am going to serve out of patriotism. You know, there are a lot of things President Biden could have done. He could have, after his law degree, gone and worked for a prestigious law firm in New York. There would have been nothing wrong with that. He would have made a lot of money. He chose not to do that. He could have, at some point in his 36 years in the Senate, chosen what many of our colleagues do, to go to a law firm in D.C. or to become a lobbyist to make money. He chose not to do that. He chose to dedicate his entire life to service of this country. Disagree with his policies, but don't call into question the man's integrity. The reality is that these attacks aren't going to even work because the American people know Joe Biden. They aren't going to work. They aren't going to work politically. But here's what they do. Here's what they do. They cheapen the culture in America. When the President of the United States is out in a stretch limousine and he tells members of Congress that not only were they protest signs, which is the First Amendment, not only are they people hurling insults at him, but that there's a 10-year-old boy with his middle finger up at the President of the United States, something is wrong in this country. When the President is out to pay his respects to the Queen, and people in England are chanting, "Let's go, Brandon," to the President of the United States, something is wrong in this country. We need to show more respect across the aisle for public service, for the office of the President. We need to stop the character assassination, and we need to stop going after people's families who have nothing to do with political office. Representative Comer says, let's make a deal. I say, let's make a deal on both the Bidens and Trumps. Don't go after family members who have nothing to do with government. I would never say that someone should go after Barron Trump. I would never say that someone should go after Donald Trump's cousins or uncles or aunts that have nothing to do, or his sister, or people who have nothing to do with government. And we should not go after President Biden's family for people who have nothing to do in government. It is time that we stop the character assassination, or we're not going to get people of President Biden's commitment to go into public service. And that ought to be on both sides. So what this committee ought to say is family members who don't serve, who don't have anything to do with politics, are not fair game. And I really am saddened again by an attack on someone who literally has dedicated his whole life to public service.
Will the gentleman yield to a question?
And I will yield, but if I could just finish. Sure. Attack President Biden on the economics. Attack him on your views on inflation. Attack, the Representative Comer and I go on Squawk Box, we debate energy policy. All of that is fine. You can even win an election with those views. Don't attack the man's integrity. Don't attack a person who's literally dedicated his whole life to the service of this nation. I'm happy to yield to a question.
I don't even know what to say about 90% of what you said, Ro, but here, on May 25th, the Wall Street Journal published a letter from the Treasury Department, or statement from the Treasury Department that said, quote, "It provides SARS to Congress in a manner that enables robust oversight and that is consistent with how other sensitive law enforcement information is provided. Treasury has made SARS available for every request we've received, regardless of party, and will continue to do so." That is not true. We have requested these suspicious activity reports from the Biden family accounts. Now, will you go along and support that? We're not saying anything about Joe Biden. If his name's not on those accounts, if he wasn't receiving 10% of this influence peddling money, this shady influence peddling money that Hunter was receiving and Hunter's uncle, then case
Time has
closed.
expired. Representative Keller, you're now.